Johnson Monday. Johnson Monday. Johnson Monday.
Some more questions, please. Could we have one from the lady?
I'm Kilipiran Dorji. I'm currently a trainee at RIM. My question is on morality. If we choose to become vegetarians because of compassion for animals, how do we justify our act of using leather products or cosmetics and pharmaceutical products which are developed in laboratories where animals are tortured? Similarly, for diseases, I know that most of the medicines are tested on animals first, although it is for the greater good for everyone. How do we draw the line between what is moral and what isn't? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I would not position myself as the most moral person. I guess there is such gray area. Of course, I think in the case of Emily is a vegan, and you probably do you use leather?
Everything I had that was leather before I went vegan, I still have. But since I've been vegan, I no longer buy any leather products. I use all vegan cosmetics, and I try and make sure that everything I buy or consume is always vegan.
Right. So I guess number one, of course, is a personal choice. But living in the world that we're in today, it's hard to be. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to be so clean cut and say that if you want to follow that strict standard, then chances are it will create a lot of inconvenience in a lot of things. And a lot of times it becomes difficult. Is it? Do you have animal products in it? So I guess what I suggest, this is my personal view only, this is only my personal view, is that it's a gradual process, step by step, okay? Mindful that some of these products may be using animals for testing, mindful that if there are choices, you want to not use these products. You want to be mindful. But at the same time, we also sometimes, in some cases, may be also realistic that you want to be majority to be moral, but sometimes it may be hard to be absolute. Same thing with green. I guess it's very similar in terms of the level of standard. I say from day one, having a human being in itself, this action already is not a green action because obviously every human being consumes. So from day one, we are destroying the planet somehow, some way. The key is we are mindful that if we're consuming, we need to make up for it. I think that's the key. So I always like to use the term that we cannot be absolute green. If you want to be absolute green, then technically you should never change your clothes. You should wear one piece of shirt, one piece of pant forever, you know, and you know, try to minimize on any consumption, which is unrealistic. So I guess we try to be 80% green. We try to be 90% green. We want to be as green as possible, as moral as possible. But at the same time, this is only my point of view, is not to give ourselves too much stress, overstress ourselves to the point that we ourselves become a problem. So when you solve one problem, you create another problem. So that's my way of looking at it. Yeah.
My name is Karma, and the question that I have is, it's basically a question of, did the egg come before the chicken or did the chicken come before the egg? It's similar to that question because I take this from the divine madman, Drupal Kinle, if you guys are familiar with him. And there is an incident in his life where he's supposed to have stopped all the fishes from going to a lake so that the people will not kill the fish. There's a long story behind it. But what happened is he stopped all the fishes from going to the lake, and thus that settlement, the people were starving. The people then, out of starvation, asked Drupal Kinle to help out. And he wrote a letter. He said in his typical eccentric fashion, he wrote a letter to the Lord of Death and said, this is the dilemma, what do I do? If I release the fish, then the fishes will die, but at least these people will live. And I believe the reply which came, I'm sure Kempo can validate it, is the fact the reply which came back from the Lord of Death, I don't know whether it was an email or a letter, was the fact that he said the fish are born as fish because of their past karma. And it is the karma of the people. The people can choose whether to not kill the fish or to kill the fish or find other means of sustenance. Now, coming to the current scenario here in Bhutan, I love the work that Tarayana does, but I recently was a part of a talk also where Tarayana, especially in southern Bhutan, are helping out with fishery there. And similarly, the government has many plans of breeding fish in Ha, as well as breeding fish in the south. And that puts me in this dilemma of the fish, did the egg come before or the chicken? Because at one hand, I'm thinking it's good because now these people can earn a living. But on the other hand, with all of the facts that David shared, the question goes out to all three of you. Anything that you would like to say to the government when they are coming out with ideas, as noble as it seems? For me, I'm a bit conflicted about this. So anything that you guys can share would be very
Thank you,
helpful.
Karma. I think it's really about sustainability at the end of the day, or sustainable practices, behavior.
In economics, right, you have supply, you have demand, and then in the middle, there's equilibrium. That was Economics 101. The first chapter in economics is demand and supply and equilibrium. And then one day I asked my professor, so can you tell me the equilibrium of this product? Can you tell me the equilibrium of this product? And then he said, that I cannot teach you. That is something for you to find out. I guess the truth of the matter is, throughout the history of mankind, we are trying to find equilibrium. We're trying to find a fairly good common ground or middle way, which is relatively good to most people and most beings. I don't believe there's absolutely one way that is perfect. I don't believe there's absolutely one way that all 7 billion people in the world must follow. For example, I'll go back to the point of Green Monday. Some people say, well, you know what? I don't like to go Green Monday. I like to go Green Sunday. Is that okay? I say, of course. And then some people say, well, can I choose another way? I decide to cut down on beef completely, but I will continue to eat meat every day. But no beef, ex-beef. Is that okay? That's okay too. You are finding your way to interpret the message. So I guess each person, I mean, to be honest, I think for each one of us, just to find our own equilibrium is a lifelong exercise. Actually, it's not lifelong. It's life after life after life. You know, it's the art of living. I think that's what Buddhism really is the art of living. You know, is to find that equilibrium, that fine point where you can strike the best balance. And so finding equilibrium just on one person is difficult enough. So finding an equilibrium for a community, for a society, for a country, and for the planet is, frankly, it's almost impossible. So we can only say something that is relatively right for most people, and try to work towards that goal. Now, of course, at different time, 1994, 2004, 2014, 2024, at each given time, based on external factors that will change, we need to change that equilibrium also. So that balance point keeps shifting. So I guess going back to Buddha's wisdom is we focus on the present moment, we focus on here and now.
Before I go into my summing up, according to the itinerary, we're supposed to go in for a short animation video at this point. It's ready, La? Okay. So we'll watch this video, and I will attempt to sum up what was discussed today. I think the key points, La, but we'll wait for the video, La.
I was born in a lush green field to a wonderful mummy. She gently cleaned me, and I felt her loving touch for the first time. But we didn't get to be together for very long. Something came up to me a few hours later, lifted me up and took me away from my mummy. She tried to follow us, but the thing took me to a different place away from her. I called out to mummy. She called out to me, but her calls got further and further away until I couldn't hear them anymore. I was scared. I spent 5 days in a pen with other calves who'd been taken away from their mummies too. Then we were sent to be killed at a scary place called the slaughterhouse. I was surrounded by death with no way out. I was so scared. I screamed and screamed for Mummy to come and save me, but she couldn't. I was taken away from my mummy so that someone else could drink the milk that was meant for me. Every day they hook her up to a big machine that sucks the milk out of her. Mummy is treated like a thing for those humans to use however they like, but she has feelings too. After many times of giving birth and losing her children, Mummy's body will be worn out, and she and other worn-out mummies will go to the slaughterhouse, the same place I was killed. And there, my sweet, gentle mummy, who did nothing wrong in her life, will be killed too. We were not things. We were somebodies who didn't want to die. I am gone, but for the many others who will come after me and suffer in the way me and my mummy did, I just want to ask humankind one question. Why? Why do you do this to us? Please, stop using us.
Well, I think that was a difficult end, in a way, for me, I confess. But I think what we're taking away today after this discussion is the fact that perhaps living healthier and making a healthy choice or a positive choice is being vegetarian or being vegan or eating less meat. But again, although everything has been clubbed under the umbrella of Buddhism and vegetarianism, you've heard the other views that are there as well, the other arguments for vegetarianism and why it might help us if we were vegetarians. And why this is being done is also because Bhutan happens to be the only Buddhist kingdom in the world. And the state religion, of course, is Buddhism as well. We are predominantly Buddhist. So is it easier then for Bhutan to adapt to this lifestyle, for the majority of us to become vegetarian? Initiatives have already been undertaken by the Tatsal Henso. Now, I guess the onus really lies on us, whether we want to be hypocritical, whether we want to criticize the decisions of the Tatsal Henso and be like, it isn't the Tatsal Henso's right to tell me what to eat. I'm going to eat what I want to eat and whatever tastes good. Perhaps now, after what you've heard today, what David pointed out to us, the hard truths that he shared to us, how much damage we're doing to the environment by consuming meat blindly and without hearing everything else around us. You watched this very powerful video, which was not violent. There are many, many videos out there, and quite a few films made by Changsa Animal Trust as well, that actually could make you stop eating meat like this. Well, at least for today and a week. Then you might forget it and start eating again. But then there's an impact. Hoping that there's an impact that was made by the discussion today. Emily also made a life choice. It's empowered her. I like the fact that she shared her story because she talks of agency. It's about removing yourself from what is considered right, actually, at the moment, when it may not be wrong. But really, it's about opening up our minds, I think, to the choices that are available to us, the choices that are healthy for ourselves in the long run, and whether we can really make an example of ourselves if we were to become a country that are voluntarily vegetarian. What David was pointing out, you can't really have something prescriptive. We are allowing multiple levels of interpretation when it comes to vegetarianism, but I think the point is really getting it across to you today that this could be a choice for you if you would like to contribute to a better environment for yourselves or for your progeny, or maybe even a healthier lifestyle for yourself. It has made a remarkable difference in Emily's life and also in David's life. And of course, Kembo. We've all, pretty much grown up as Buddhists, but do we really know what it means to be a Buddhist? I'm sitting next to Kembo, and I do know that I don't know a lot of things about being a Buddhist. But what I do really embrace is a moderate way, a moderate lifestyle. And what the Tassal Hens was also promoting is really flexitarianism that David was also talking about. So these are options available to you. The internet is out there. You can have this discussion among yourselves and see if it's possible not to take out meat entirely from your diet, but what can you remove and make sustainable choices. I'd like to thank my wonderful speakers today. Thank you so much. A round of applause for our speakers. And I'd like to hand over to
Monday.